Well, we were training to work in aircraft. And of course, it was my first turn on handling tools and drilling holes in metal and putting rivets in. It was an all-woman crew. That ship isn't gonna fly without those tails. And those women were doing a bang-up job. My name is Rose Lesslie, and I was born on March the 30th, 1926. We moved before my third birthday to Mountain View, California, and I've remained there ever since. We were in the middle of a horrible, deep depression, and everybody around us was in the same situation. So we pretty much had a pretty rough childhood. How do you explain the depression? It was difficult in many ways. My parents were immigrants from Croatia, and Croatian was our language at home, my first language as well. My dad was lucky enough to get a job at Stanford University as a gardener for 50 cents an hour to take care of a family of 7. And our rent at that time in this area was $16 a month. So when the war started, it was all very strange and very different. All of a sudden, all kinds of things were happening all around us. And of course, we didn't have any idea of what war was anyway, because we were in total peacetime from World War I when that happened until World War II. We didn't know anything about war until it started happening here. And it started happening fast. We would see all these convoys going by, which was amazing to see all these trucks was full of military men, and we'd wave at all of them, and most of them are just kids anyway. And that's the ones that do the fighting and get killed. They were just kids when they died. My sister was looking for work here, and the man that was going to hire her for some reason came to our home to talk to her. When he was there, he saw me there, and he said, "What about you?" I says, "I can't go out there." He said, Why can't you?" I says, "I'm too young." "Well, now, how old are you?" I says, "I'm 16. And he looked at me and he said, "No, you're not. You're 18, she's 19, I'll take both of you." So out I came in 1942 to work a ship service store. Along the way came a nice, beautiful young Marine that sat down at the end of the counter. And I took one look and I said, "That one's mine." And he was. His name was Kermit. He stayed in Southern California for about another 6 months. Then he was sent overseas. I guess my husband did end up on a machine gun, a water-cooled machine gun. There was a time when he was on a Japanese bonsai, and he was absolutely terrified. Now, as I understand it, on a water-cooled machine gun, you're supposed to shoot in spurts, with just a brief interval between spurts, or the machine will burn up. In this particular bonsai that my husband was involved with, he was so terrified. There were so many of them coming at him, and he was so terrified that even though he knew better, he hung on to that machine gun until it burned up in his hands. And at that point, he knew in his heart that he was a dead man. Thank God, the 2 guys on either side of him, 2 on one side, 2 on the left, took up their role and protected him from getting killed. He was away from me for a total of 39 months. In that time, I wrote at least one letter a day, every single day. I never missed a day. Many times I'd write twice, but I kept those letters going. It was my way of him knowing that I was here at home and waiting for him. I was scared to death. I prayed for him all the time. I cried a lot, and I wrote those letters. I was about 6 years younger than him. So when we had events at school, like the junior prom, I didn't go because I wasn't going to be dancing with high school kids. My Marine was overseas, and I was waiting for him. I was tired of cutting apricots and trying to make a little bit of money doing that. I could make more money by doing exactly what the Navy was going to train us to do and what I could do. Well, we were training to work in aircraft, and of course it was my first turn on handling tools and drilling holes in metal and putting rivets in. Very easy, and I loved it. I loved what I was doing, and it was very easy. So I had no problem with it. I loved it. Our blimps were built in Akron, Ohio, and then they were sent here. There was a group of women that were together, and when we first came on the base, I was put into the fin room, fins and rudders for the tail part of the blimp. It was an all-woman crew. That ship isn't gonna fly without those tails. And those women were doing a bang-up job. The war was over in August. The armistice was signed in September. It was on the radio. It was also in the newspapers as I remember. And people were rejoicing on the streets. It was just, I don't know, cars were going by honking and people seemed to be celebrating and kind of wondering, is this really true? Is this really happening? It just was an awesome time to be living and seeing what was going on around us. All of a sudden, one day, I got a letter that he would be coming home. In the meantime, I'm home just waiting, not knowing what day or what hour he would finally come in. After a long period of time, the telephone rang, and that's how I found out that he was finally home. They were standing on the deck of the aircraft carrier waiting for the first sight of home. And when the Golden Gate came into view, my husband said he was ashamed because tears were flowing down his face, until he took a quick look behind him and saw that all the Marines were doing the same. When the ship was under the bridge, the people on the bridge above dropped flowers on him. I couldn't believe it when I saw him standing there, and I walked towards him. I couldn't believe that I had that many tears in me. I cried and cried and cried and cried. By this time, I was 19 years old. It was a long time waiting. In November, he was discharged from the Marines, and in December, we were married. It seems like for us, our life was moving pretty fast. My daughter was born before our first anniversary. And then shortly after that, I had a son. We had our home built in Mountain View, very close to where I lived with my parents, and we moved into it in 1947, and I'm still in it. When the kids got a little older, and I was looking for work because there's never enough money when you have children, I looked into San Jose Mercury to see what was going on. And they were building helicopters in East Palo Alto that were going to military use for Korea and Vietnam. I said, piece of cake, I can do that. So I went right to Hiller and signed on, and I was on. That's all I needed. All I needed was jigs and fixtures and give me the tools I need to do my work and get out of the way. I had it. I stayed with my trade for 35 years. The war and conflict, the way I learned about it was what I learned at home from my husband. Even on our honeymoon, he had frightful nightmares that scared me really bad. And my children, as little as they were, grew up hearing Dad scream at night. And it went on for a long, long time. If I was around, I didn't allow anyone to go asking questions. I was trying to protect him from himself. 25 years ago, he passed away from cancer, lymph nodes, and it was bad. Spent a lot of my life waiting for him. Loved him dearly then and love him dearly still. It's just something I guess I just got used to. Don't like it, but that's just the way it is. It's been a hard road, just constantly waiting. Well, there are a lot of things happening in the world that are frightening and scary, and I keep wondering, where is this leading us? Where are we going? It seems like we're always fighting someplace all the time, and that worries me. It scares me. There's a lot of things that just aren't right in the world today, and I don't know what the answers are. It's scary. I would hate to think of another war somewhere, sometime. It's just more than I would hate to see happen in my lifetime. Yet there's always trouble somewhere. It never stops. I don't understand it. If you don't learn from the past, you're bound to repeat it. And that's what we were always told, even way back when we were there. I see our boys getting killed still, and it hurts to even think of guys coming home in coffins, things of this sort. It just seems so wrong. And for me, it seems very frightening, scary. I wonder how much all of that is worth it.
Our first thoughts, of course, thoughts of gratefulness and deep obligation, go out to those of our loved ones who have been killed or maimed in this terrible war. On land and sea and in the air, American men and women have given their lives so that this day of ultimate victory might come and assure the survival of a civilized world. No victory can make good their loss. We think of those whom death in this war has hurt, taking from them fathers, husbands, sons, brothers, and sisters whom they loved. No victory can bring back the faces they long to see.